I don't know. And it's like, what is that about the tech world and wanting to truncate words? You know, like abracadabra, that's cool, but if we just call it cadabra, it's like, I guess, I don't know, it's not bad, but what does that even mean? It's like 2/3 of a rabbit coming out of a hat? I don't know, it's not good, it doesn't like invoke anything. But then what does Amazon invoke either?
That's a good question now that you mention it. I'm sure there, like, at some point he had to explain it to someone, but it is weird how often I use Amazon and have never until now really asked myself, why? Why do they call it that?
Hey everyone, this is Nick.
And I'm Kyle.
And apparently you must be listening to this show called The Big Bang Theory, which is where we watch the television show The Big Bang Theory, and we talk about it a little bit. But mostly we ask ourselves more big, important questions, like, I'm not going to look it up, but yeah, Amazon. Like, I have some sort of just, like, association with the Amazon River, but then am I doing a lot of the work and assuming that's, like, a big, major, like, trade route that they are trying to make you think of, or... Because the only other...
Yeah, I mean, that's like...
Then there's the jungle, and then there's the mythical fighters, you know, that's...
Yeah, I assume they mean something like the place, and not, like, you know, we can get you goods all the way, like, even if you're in the Amazon, or maybe we can get you stuff from the Amazon. But, or maybe they just mean we have a jungle of products. That could be it, too. You know, or particularly if you consider they were originally a bookseller, you know, there's
right.
a lot of wood in the Amazon.
So you think this is like, thank you for buying our products, which are rapidly deforesting this area?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually not the primary cause of deforestation, I don't think, is books. But yeah, it's something like that.
Don't think I said it was the primary cause.
Yeah, but no, that's a good point. I don't know. But anyway, it is... it would be funny, though, if Jeff Bezos was just like, I just like big women. I like the big, tall ones.
I mean, that could be it, but I don't know. I'd have to see the size of his wife and how she compares, because I don't know how tall he is, because he's one of those guys that, I don't know, is good at faking height and appearing, you know, above the people he needs to appear above in shots and stuff. So, and I'm not willing to do that kind of research.
Do you think there's a writer that if you're like next to Jeff Bezos, like someone's like, you have to squat, and it's like, what? It's like, you have to squat. If you're going to stand next to Lord Bezos, you will squat.
Kyle, I mean, you ask it like it's a funny joke, but I'm like, I just can't rule it out. It's just like, yeah, there's got to be like, no, you can approach him, but, you know, just remember he's always on his royal ramp. He's always going to be... No matter how close you get to him, it's almost like you can never reach the horizon. He's always going to be 6 feet higher than you. That's the technology we've really been working on.
Yes.
But that's not what this show is about. Technically, this show's about the show I mentioned once that's very close to the name of our show, which is The Big Bang Theory. And for that part of this experiment, we watched a particular episode, which in this case is the 21st episode of the 9th season, officially titled The Viewing Party Combustion, and unofficially summarized as thus. Everyone must choose sides when a small argument between Leonard and Sheldon erupts into a heated fight during a group get-together. Ooh, you know what? I appreciate how vague that one is, actually. That's someone who's doing just enough to give you the idea. They're not getting into weird plot details or anything. That's, goddamn, I don't know, again... Who maintains this fan wiki? I have no clue, but I feel like that's an excellent summary.
Well done, wiki man.
The only thing I think it does fail to capture, which, you know, hey, why not discover in the moment, is to the extent there is any B plot, it does get wrapped right up into the main plot, which is, the main play is that there's going to be a Game of Thrones viewing night, and as it is beginning... Sheldon reminds Leonard that, hey, tomorrow's the quarterly roommate agreement, and Leonard gets huffy, and in response to this, Penny comes out and says, well, I mean, we agreed to it, what's the big deal? And then Leonard gets huffier that Penny's taking his side, and then meanwhile, Raj, I was really hoping this was going to be like a Raj's day thing, a day out kind of thing, because Wolowitz, like Raj says, oh, I got to go see Claire, and Wolowitz is like, I'm not clear who you're dating at this point. And Raj, that devil, he's dating two babes. But instead of being cool about it, he just goes on and on about, oh, what an ordeal it is to not know whose bed I'm sleeping in tonight. Blah, blah, blah. To the point where Wolowitz gets like genuinely sick of it. And then by the time they get to the little the viewing party, they are also on the outs and must take sides. And so I guess that's how it gets folded in. It looks like it's going to be his own plot, and then it's just something annoying Raj does, I guess. And so for a moment, I had hope, because I did like the way that all of this was kind of converging. We get to a moment where, basically all of the main cast are in one room, and they're all deciding that they have to take sides on this fight, and they split up. And then it's like a little negotiation battle of spirits and emotions between them. There's not even any goal. No one even cares about the show. And I'm on board for that. But then where I think the episode loses me again is that I forgot that this is specifically a Game of Thrones viewing party. And at one point, maybe Amy or, I don't know, somebody is like, hey, aren't we all acting a little bit like the characters from Game of Thrones? The way that we have these complicated relationships with each other and are attempting to manipulate and undermine each other at every turn. And that comes up, and I'm like, fuck, gosh, dang it. I thought this was going somewhere, and instead they're like, no, don't forget. This is our Game of Thrones time. And then Stuart shows up dressed as a Night Watch guy, I guess. I don't know. Because I guess he got pranked into thinking it was a dress-up thing. And it's like, oh, Stuart, your commitment to the brand is hilarious. Look at us having a good Game of Thrones time. And I don't know, it all just kind of like peters out. It's like they all agree that it's fun to make fun of Stuart. And the episode just kind of dissolves. So hooray for that. And I don't know, I didn't watch a lot of Game of Thrones, but I assume that it didn't open and close with them having an argument about also the linguistic wackiness of having a man bat a Batman and how many combinations of that you can make. Kyle, your thoughts, feelings, additions, etc.
I think you, and it's okay because I couldn't remember it. I was like, how do they get out of there? Because they're in like an argument spiral. What does someone say to make the argument stop? And then I remembered, no one says anything. Wolowitz gets a massive nut allergy and has to go to the emergency room. And that's where they have the conversation about, tonight's been like Game of Thrones, huh? But I was like, it is wild, A, that they chose to resolve the conflict in that way, and B, that it's so low stakes that it's basically played off like 30 seconds later.
Yeah, it's like, I felt like my hopes were dashed, because the way that I feel like so often, when there are these A, B, C plots, they're usually on separate tracks that have like the thinnest veneer of any sort of connective tissue. And in this one, when they all clearly come together, I'm like, oh, hey, this might be an episode where something gets done. Instead it's like, man, wouldn't this be a complicated thing for us to sort out? Like on that show, Wolowitz's face is puffy, and yeah, it all is just kind of like, then it goes back to the non-joke from the beginning of, Batman, and no one cares. And the roommate agreement thing is abandoned. Any sort of concerns about like Raj and how annoying he's being, it's gone.
Although maybe this is actually the most genius thing of all, because famously Game of Thrones ended by abandoning a bunch of its plot points and pissing everybody off for not living up to any of its potential whatsoever, and just sort of petering out at the very end. So maybe the writers of the show are brilliant for doing the most accurate Game of Thrones imitation in the meta of the show.
This, I think, is haunting. I feel like you've really tapped into something there, and I'm tempted to start researching dates and putting a bunch of dots on a marker connected with red string. But I think this is another thing where there's someone in this episode tapped into a deeper thing and was able to ride the same wavelength. Not that helped foresee and prevent something like the end of Game of Thrones, but they both read the same wavelength to their ultimate destruction.
Yeah, they were like, oh, conflict is impossible to sustain. It's like there is no way to satisfactorily pay this off. Better introduce a Deus Ex Machina and then end with everybody who's still around just magically deciding to get along.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's like, I kind of want to like dig at it more because it feels like...
No, it's fine.
Yeah, like there should be more there, but like, even... the main argument, like the roommate argument and the Raj being annoying thing, they just, yeah, aside from coming up, there's just no resolution, and aside from just like pointlessly hypothesizing about like any deeper feelings, yeah, they did none of the work to resolve them, and it's just so unsatisfying.
No, not at all. I mean, I assume the Raj thing will come back around, later in some way, shape, or form.
Well,
but
yeah, as part of the conversation with neither of the women he's dating actually have to appear on screen.
Yes.
Yeah,
that makes
I'll wrap
sense.
that up.
Yeah, he'll do it all over the phone, and you'll only see his side of each conversation. No, the main thing I thought, again, not really that interesting in how it pays off, but the main chunk of whatever that was sort of just interesting to note is the way in which Penny has secretly been using Sheldon to exert her will over Howard without him knowing about it by, sucking up to him and getting him to insist on things that then Howard has to do. Leonard has to do.
Well, yeah, and then I think the equivalent other half of that is, I mean, again, it doesn't like work. Like Wallowitz finding out that Bernadette like is secretly defending Raj in all sorts of conversations, but then like the examples they give are like, hey, who convinced you to be less racist towards Raj? And he's like, yeah, I guess that was my wife. What the fuck is this about?
Yeah, how dare she take that man's side?
Yeah, and it's like, those aren't the same.
And it's like, ooh, aren't these deep machinations and manipulations just like in Game of Thrones? It's like,
yeah, that's, I don't know. It's like just like to even make the comparison, and like maybe the joke is supposed to, I mean, I think it is, that like the comparison is so bad, but I don't know. Like, saying this sucks and then highlighting how incongruous it is doesn't make it better. It's still just like, oh no, you're right, that wasn't a good match. See you next week.
yes.
Well, and with that, anything else about this one?
I do think that Raj's thing, I mean, if like it ended up not going in this direction, but actually I think it would have been funnier if they had played what he was doing the whole episode straight, because the joke is that he's just humble bragging about dating two ladies at the same time. But all of his complaints about as someone who has not duplicitly, but someone who briefly did date two women at the same time, it is hard. It is legitimately hard. It is a little bit exhausting at all times. It's just a lot more work than it looks to make everybody happy. And so it would have actually been really funny and surprisingly accurate if he had just basically been doing the same thing the whole episode, just without the smugness. Just like, oh my God, I don't know. I can't remember whose house I'm supposed to sleep at tonight. Oh, fuck. What do I do?
That is a little of where I hoped and expected it would go. Like, that like my idea of like Raj's day out would be, like his friends cannot believe that he's even in this situation. And, I think what Raj is hoping for is that they're all like, so like jealous and overwhelmed by what a cool guy is. But as, it shows at least with Wallowitz, they're like, yeah, man, we fucking get it. All right. But yeah, like I really hoped it was Raj just trying to like juggle the dynamics. And it would be like, in spite of what all his friends think, like when it's coming to like juggling relationships and not just having like all the other surface level nerdery, showing that like I would hope that he is like surprisingly good at it, but also that it is nonetheless a frazzling experience. And instead, it is just the humble bragging scenario. So, which you get what you get, Can't be one of those people that says it's wrong because it's not what I wanted, but it's not what I wanted. So, Any other feelings about this?
Nope.
Well, Kyle, I think let us swiftly move on to our thing we actually enjoy. And I have one hot, ready, and loaded.
Go.
Okay. And so I'm going to be extra brief here because I I've been watching a bunch of cool stuff, and a lot of it's been great. But instead of kind of like dancing around, I really want to emphasize. I recently saw the 2025. I don't know. It's not soft reboot. Continuation, I guess, of the Naked Gun, and I loved it. I can't tell you it's like a brilliant, perfect, insightful movie, but what I can tell you is it's just a vehicle for nonstop jokes the whole time. And it feels like old-fashioned in a way where instead of like, I mean this in the most sincere way, like instead of trying to do anything like particularly clever, instead of trying to like, I don't know, satirize some sort of big current event, it really is just dumb jokes. And it's, they don't all hit, but it's in a way where there are so many that do, and they just come at such a fast pace that I don't know. It feels almost quaint, but like so refreshing to have that. And like, and also I swear this is a sincere compliment that it's not even 90 minutes. Like seeing that and being like, oh yeah, this is not going to give me a chance to get bored. It's great. And I guess just to not have this be the shortest possible ever, I guess I'll say, it's got Liam Neeson, and to think he could be any sort of replacement for Leslie Nielsen would be ridiculous. And even in the movie, they do their best to acknowledge that is not what they're trying to do. And nonetheless, he's great with comedy. He is. I think they really play into his history as being like a kind of absurd action star. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I was watching an interview with I think Bill Hader, where he was talking about the movie Airplane, and he was saying that one of the things that is like that movie is a masterpiece, but one of the things about it that is impossible to capture for a modern audience, which is unfortunate, is just how like part of the original appeal, if you saw it like in theaters at the time, was that all of the characters in it were actually actors who had mostly had serious careers up to that point. So it wasn't like a gallery of wacky people like with like a movie like a Will Ferrell movie today. Sure. It was like apparently Leslie Nielsen was like in a bunch of like serious like war and police movies and stuff, and then he's the wacky guy in Airplane, and like the guy who flies the plane, all of those guys were just straight men until this movie. And so that incongruity, and so I think that is probably a big part of like what the new Naked Gun was trying to capture by casting Liam Neeson, was like, no. The fact that you associate him with like gritty, like, non-comic serious roles is part of the joke.
Well, yeah. And also I think that like,
I mean, I guess of course it's part of the joke, but I mean, it was part of the joke of the original Police Squad 2 that has maybe been lost to time.
Oh, I mean, I knew about like the Airplane. I think that was like Leslie Nielsen's like first big comedic turn, and I suppose that extends to like the Police Squad as well. I'm mostly just familiar with that being a fun idiot cop thing, which he still pulls off, but he does more punching and kicking now, I guess. So I can also see that being brought into it. And Pamela Anderson's great in it. I'm glad she's having a comeback. I kept saying, is that Danny Houston? And it is, and he's great. And after I watched it, I almost immediately started watching it again because I thought it was a fun time. So yes, I recommend, I guess, all of the Naked Gun movies really in decreasing value. But this one as a wonderful return. So yeah, the Naked Gun, go see it. Or however you want. Kyle, your turn.
Okay, so I'm doing a double. The first one I'm not going to say that much about, at least this time, because it just came out. But I saw One Battle After Another, the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie. It is fantastic. It is so good. And, it's not it's not just good in like that art house satisfy, like, I'm not saying for a guy who's as accomplished a director, I don't think Paul Thomas Anderson movies are generally that inaccessible, but it's a range, right? He's made more and less accessible movies over time. Like Punch Drunk Love and Boogie Nights are pretty easy to get into, and then like The Master and Inherent Vice are kind of weird, and then right in the middle between them is There Will Be Blood. But this movie is actually, it might be his most like straightforward movie ever in terms of just like, you don't have to understand, complicated movie stuff. You don't have to like be on some special wavelength to watch it. You might appreciate it more if you were, but like if people tell you have to know that it's, an homage to a particular Thomas Pynchon book that was published in the 90s, just tune them out. You don't need any of that shit. You just need to go see it, and it's really good. So I mean it, and by really good, I mean I think it's the best movie I've seen this year.
I was also a huge fan, and I was trying to not overhype it to a friend to risk her getting sick of hearing about it and then not wanting to see it. But yeah, I also loved and highly recommend that film. It's a swell time, even though the main lead actress sounds like a bank.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't want to spoil any more about it. So instead, I'll talk about this other TV show I've been watching that is delightful, and I think you would like a lot, Nick. If you may have you ever watched any of English Teacher?
I don't think I've even heard of it.
Okay, well, it's on. You can watch it on Hulu. I think it was originally an FX show, and it's still. But English Teacher is a show about a gay English teacher teaching it. I'm not like, it's definitely Austin, but I think it's like the Austin suburbs, so it's not like like the deep downtown Austin. So he's teaching, so which is just to say, the kids are, it's not like crazy that he's a gay teacher there, but it is still like there's the extent to which other people around him are homophobic is a constant question that he's dealing with. But anyway, he's an English teacher. He's gay. He's Hispanic, although he looks white, which is another joke that they get a lot of mileage out of. And it is just fantastic. It is incredibly funny. It is based, I assume, somewhat. I think the guy who plays the main character, the English teacher, I think he's also a producer on the show, and so I assume in some sense it's based on experiences maybe he had at some point in his life before he decided to, become a Hollywood guy. But it's really, I mean, every episode is really funny and also really heartfelt. It reminds me a lot of what you were talking about in King of the Hill, where it is simultaneously like a very sort of, pokes fun at a certain, like, at culture and things like that, but is also very nuanced in its takes. Like, for instance, like the second episode of the show revolves around, I can't remember what they actually, a Powder Puff game, which is in Powder Puff, you have like a Powder Puff day at school where the girls play a game of touch football, and then the boys come out dressed as cheerleaders and do a routine. And so you get this whole fun dynamic where it's like actually the when the English teacher, who is hyper liberal and kind of meddlesome, hears that it's being they're threatening to cancel, he's like, those conservatives, right? And every single like person he talks to is like, no, we love this tradition. We've had our football players dressing as girls for years. It's like the funniest thing. It's one of our favorite things. We have a long, deep tradition of doing this, and it's actually the LGBT kids who think it's maybe a little disrespectful to people who are actually transgender or whatever. So his solution to it is like, okay, we're going to do this, but if you want respectful, I'm going to bring in an actual drag queen, and she's going to show you if you're going to do this whole thing, you're going to do it right. And then all the football players get really, really into just like giving the best drag show possible. Nice. And it's kind of like that's like the level you're on. You know, there's this one of the main characters who's like the closest thing the guy has to a male best friend in the show is like this hyper conservative PE teacher who you think is going to be just deeply problematic throughout the whole show, but who nevertheless is like he is problematic, but never quite the way you think he's going to be problematic. And so in a way, it's usually pretty sweet, you know. So I just highly recommend it. I think you would like it. It has a bunch of really, really funny, good moments. And it's interesting.
And this is just called English Teacher?
Yep.
Cool. So, 3 recommendations. A movie about a bad cop. A movie about someone that is like, hey, the cops are bad and we really got to stop it. And then a movie that's not related to the cops at all. Then is about...
It's a TV show.
Oh, yeah, a TV show. That is also not related to the cops at all. Unless they have a streak of episodes about, like, what are they called? School resource officers or whatever. School cops.
The closest they have to that is they have an episode about a military recruiter coming to the campus. And that, again, it is just the whole arc that they go on with that character is really funny.
I'm also now imagining like a really ill-advised sequel to The Naked Gun where Frank Drebin becomes a school resource office and, not intentionally, just through being a bit of a bumble and a goof, ends up assaulting and murdering just a horde of students because of his bumbling investigations. You know, the kind of thing you can get away with adults, and then you realize is like, maybe this is actually a little more horrifying than I thought when it's happening to the Ute. But he is still a silly old goof. It's still fun to see him do it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, any final thoughts as we leave this one behind? A very unsatisfying episode, but at least some unsatisfying things we watched when we weren't watching this.
Nope, I'm good.
Well then, I will just say, yeah, I don't know. Nothing even funny. Just go see One Battle After Another. It rules. That's it. Do yourself the favor. Just go see it. Bye.